most important one is to look at what kind of decisions you are making frequently as a head of quality, right? So like, if you are making decisions of, hey, do I need to hire another full-time or a consulting resource because I'm having, a lot of work in my department, or do I need to change my training, uh, the way my department is administering training? Do I need to change that because the retention of that training is not good? So AI can pretty much answer any question, but as a human, you need to know what is the burning question in your mind, as a head of quality. So what we do with companies is we try to ask them, what are the questions that you keep wanting to know the answers to frequently?
Harsh, thank you so much for joining this chat today. I have been, I must say, a fan of your work. You have been, creating really valuable insights, sharing it over LinkedIn for the past couple of years or so. I have personally learned a lot from the different kind of blogs that you have written. You have talked to really high quality individuals over the past couple of years as well. I've probably listened to almost all of your videos as well, and try to
Thank
learn
you.
as much as possible. What I want to begin with, Harsh, is your cover photo on LinkedIn, which says
Hmm.
cultivating a quality culture in life sciences. Can you unpack what does quality culture mean?
Yeah, I think you are the first person who asked me about that catchphrase on my profile. So thank you for bringing it up.
Yeah.
Uh, the idea behind putting that up there was, in one sense, people might feel like it sounds great to have the word quality culture. It's a buzzword. But to me, I think of quality culture as something that is the body language of your organization. It doesn't matter if you're a life science company or a mom and pop shop selling donuts in your neighborhood, right? Like it basically just means, do you prioritize quality over other aspects of running your business, right? And that's what it ultimately comes down to. So when you look at life sciences organizations, we are striving for compliance, we are striving for patient safety, we are striving for a lot of other goals, but there's always this tug of war between quality and that other goal, and our job is to find that middle ground and teach everybody in the organization to start thinking that way, whether their role has quality in it, in their title or not. They should still be having that thought process. So it's more about creating that thinking, and one way that I feel I can contribute to that is by asking clients the right questions when they hire me or somebody from my team to help out with their QMS. I'm not going in to say, okay, I'm going to come and fix your culture, but it's more of a behind the scenes. It's my goal to ask them the right questions, like, okay, why do you need this QMS, or why do you need this process, why do you have this, why do you have that, what's the end goal, and try to make them think in that mindset. So that's kind of how I put it, and I figured that that would be a good mission for the company in everything we do.
Yeah, no, sounds like it. And Harsh, you have been an expert in quality and I must say a leader in quality for the past few years. How did your journey begin? And I think about a couple of years ago, you took that leap. You started, your own company focusing on analyzing quality data. So we would love to learn a little bit more about your journey and your personal motivation behind putting in such extra efforts into bringing quality to life.
Yeah, I would say that it wasn't planned, right? I didn't even like entering pharmaceutical or life sciences industry. Being born and raised in India, I would say that my father was one of the first few people who kind of introduced me to the life science industry because he works in that industry. And I remember, as a teenager, going on weekends to just, do a factory tour, or he would show me like, oh, we're ordering this capsule filling equipment, or hey, we're doing a packaging line, you might want to come and just see how we're, packaging all, and we're getting a container that's being shipped out to this country. So growing up, that's what I heard. And that slowly started turning into like factory tours. Then I started seeing things with my eyes of how medicines are made and packaged and shipped. So that's where sort of the passion came in, to maybe at least go in and learn more about the industry, which is what I did in my bachelor's program. And then how I got into quality, like, to be honest, when I first came to US, I was doing a industrial pharmacy program, and I was doing a lot of lab work, like doing QC studies, or like viscosity, or like different types of uh, CIS-PQ type of work for the product or the testing. And I didn't really want to be uh, in that phase. Like, I didn't want to be in a lab for the rest of my career, because I always liked technology as well. So I wanted to find something within life sciences that had both science and technology, if that makes sense. So I actually quit that program after 6 months, and I still feel like I wasted, a lot of hard-earned money from my parents for that first semester. But that's when I went into reg affairs and quality program at that university, and I think that was my first, you know, like that was the first phase where I started learning about regulations, learning about FDA, EU. And then my first job was into software validation, software compliance, and quality. So that's how my career started in the quality space. And when I look back now, like I said, it wasn't planned, but every step after another ended up being to where I am today.
Yeah, it's almost like the entire universe was conspiring to get you where you are today.
Yeah, yeah, it wasn't planned. So I'm happy where I am today. I love what I do. And going into consulting was just a lot of reasons for going into consulting. I worked in quality for many years as a consultant, as an employee, and loved working with all the colleagues and all the organizations. But it was more about trying something new, trying something different, which we can talk more in this show later on. And also just having the flexibility on the personal front of my everything going on in my life. I felt like consulting was much better fit for me than being an employee. So I went
Yeah.
down that path.
Yeah, so we'll come to that. In fact, when we start talking about your company, the first thing which really stands out to me is how sharply you have been able to position yourself in such a crowded industry. So the core message which I got after and I have known you for a while. You were pretty much one of the very few people who I met when I first landed in US. You helped me out a lot, so thank you so much for. I think we'll probably do
Yep.
another chat on that, but just going. The positioning that you have been able to create, and I'm quoting your website right now, which says cultivate insights from your QMS data. So I think there's a lot of depth in this statement. Do you want our viewers to uh, just can you just share your thinking behind what does it mean by cultivating insights from your QMS data in hours, not days?
Right. Yeah. So there are two parts to that statement, right? So the first one is more about what the end user or my target audience in the life sciences is gonna get, and the second is the speed or the comfort at which they're gonna get. The first part is more focused on from my career when I worked in different quality roles. I got this sense that there are so many missed opportunities of using technology for data analysis or decision making. And then with the rise of AI in the last couple years, and how hyped up it has become. I mean, AI didn't come 2 years ago, it's been there for a while, but for a lot of audience or general population, they are now understanding what AI is and what it does. Uh, so the idea was to understand different use cases in life sciences where companies want to make decisions from their data or just want to ask questions, right? Like, yes, they can go into their document management system and search for it, but there is no real time data capture and trending and analysis. And to me, uh, AI is the perfect solution for making that happen for companies. Now, there are some concerns about how safe is AI? Is my data safe? Can I put it in an AI model? Can I put my company data there? So there's a lot of concerns there, but in theory, it works. If you know how to plug it in, it works. So that was the idea. That's what I was chasing when I started the company. Those kind of projects. So that's where the whole cultivate insights from your QMS came in, because if you look at the industry in the last 15 years or so, since we've had all the cloud applications and now we have all the SaaS tools for literally every function in quality that you can imagine, right? From documentation, training, risk management, all sorts of things. So the data is constantly generated every day by
Yeah.
every user. But when it comes time to make a decision, companies don't have that data readily available, right? Like, even if you want to do a trend on a deviation, you have to go and search the past 10 deviations that had the same issue, and then read all of them and understand what the trend is. But if you had implemented an AI to capture all your deviation data, you could just go and ask that AI, hey, how many times did I have this in the past, or do you see any trend, right? So it's not a perfect solution, but it's a good companion to reduce some of the manual effort, right? So that was the idea, and that's where the whole hours not days is sort of, because it does take days, right? If I went and
Yeah.
did this in person, looking at it would take me at least 2-3 days to come up with a PowerPoint that says what it is. But obviously, technology will shorten that, in a and reduce that time. So that's what we've found, that the companies that we're working with that were spending 10, 12, 15 hours to do something manually, if they had an AI solution, they could get not 100% answers, but they could get at least 80% of the answers within like a couple of hours. If that doesn't include the amount and the resources it would take to set up the AI, but I'm just
Yeah.
saying when it's up and running.
I really love that example, Harsh. So let's play a scenario. Let's imagine that I am the head of quality at a pharmaceutical manufacturing company, and we have implemented a QMS platform which has been in existence for the past decade. I think we have a huge amount of data around change controls and deviations and the corrective and preventive actions we have taken. And now all of this data is available in a somewhat structured manner as well, because I am able to access my database underneath the QMS platform. So
Yep.
now, what does it mean for a person like head of quality to start thinking about implementing an analytics layer on top of QMS? What are some of the tangible use cases, benefits that I should be able to get?
Yeah, I would say that the most important one is to look at what kind of decisions you are making frequent, and then what are the data points that you need to answer those questions, right? So if you need to see like, the training data, or in the example of training, if you need to see how many deviations or how many times you reported that the training was not good, or you need to retrain. So that gives you maybe a signal that your training for that SOP or for that process was not good. So you could connect those data elements. You could teach the AI to say, hey, look at the deviations where people listed that training was not sufficient, and
Yeah.
return to me the values of which SOPs were listed. So that's one example where you once you know what question you're asking or you want to ask. And you gave an example of structured data. If you have already a QMS, that's great. But even if you have unstructured data in a PDF, there are
Yeah.
many AI extraction tools available where you need a little bit of data science knowledge to set them up right, but you can still ask questions and get the answers.
Yeah, no, that's really insightful, Harsh. So, based on your experience so far, what are the top insights you are discovering in the by working with the companies? What are top two, three, four things that you are seeing and discovering consistently across the pharma companies in terms of the kind of mistakes they might be making or the areas where they are a little bit slower than expected? So just share with us, some insights that you have discovered so far.
Yeah, this is a great question. There are a couple of them that come to mind. So the first one is just the knowledge sharing or the knowledge management part, right? So from what I've seen working with clients is all the companies are doing an excellent job of storing information, but they're not doing that great of a job of distributing that information to the right person at the right time so they can use it, right? So in the knowledge distribution and knowledge management space, now think about uh, let's say QMS as an example, right? So let's
Yeah.
say you are a user in a biotech or pharma company, and you want to find an answer. But to find that answer, you have in your mind, maybe three or four policies or documents that potentially have that answer. So your go-to way is you go search that document, you control F, you search what you want,
Yeah.
and that's how most people would find that, right? But if you had that all of that, your document data, the policy, the SOPs, and the forms and templates that you're generating, all hooked up to a data model, and then you had a just a chat box where you could go and pose that question, you now have taken out so much of extra steps to get the answer. Now, again, will you get the right answer in the first shot? Maybe, maybe not. It depends on the quality of your question, right? Because AI,
Yeah.
as you know, even chat GPT, it depends on what question you ask. If you ask a very generic question, you will get a bland response or a wrong response. But so that's one example, of knowledge management and sharing, where I feel like we've seen a lot of companies are interested in using AI because it's less. There's not much risk in terms of
Yeah.
uh, it's just data that is needed for business operations. It's not data that impacts like a patient's health or like the manufacturing. It's just data in your company's environment that's needed. So that's one example. And the other one is just with the amount of companies that are relying on external providers, so like contract manufacturers or uh, you know contract research organizations, you name it, right? So as we're seeing, a lot of companies are over relying on external suppliers. They don't even have in-house manufacturing. It's all virtual. So
Yeah.
then comes the question of how do you get access to their data? Because now you have to have a data agreement, and your CRO or CDMO has to give you the data in a way that's compliant with your internal policies and procedures. And you have to have somebody in your team review that and find if it's acceptable or not. So in that case also, we worked with a client where we are basically triaging all of this data that's coming from external sources, and simply organizing it, right? So like this data is coming from CDMO1, or this data is for this product, this substance or something, and it's coming from this CRO, it's related to that. So that when
Yeah.
they need to analyze it, it's organized. Otherwise it's just, somebody emailing you PDFs or putting it in a Dropbox. And so that's another example. As more and more companies are working with contract organizations, they're going to need a good data management mechanism. So that's as well, AI can help with triaging and classifying a lot of those documents.
Yeah. And Harsh, listening to the examples which you have shared, it reminds me of a conversation which I was doing with another leader in the pharmaceutical industry, a COO of a really good pharma company. He told me that uh, any company which hasn't implemented generative AI specifically in the quality and manufacturing domain so far, it's already too late. They are already left behind. The world is moving ahead. Everybody has made such great progress. So if you haven't pulled the trigger yet, it may be too late for you. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I would say that I understand why that person made this comment, and the reason for that is uh, the amount of use cases where AI can be used. There are too many, right? Like in every company or every client I work with, you know, just because I'm passionate about this topic, I start thinking of, hey, why are you doing it this way? Like you could, but taking that first step, right? Do I want to uh, go about understanding this data model? Like, so what the challenge that most companies are facing is, sure, they have the money to go and build an AI solution or buy something out of the box. They have approval from the management. They have interest, because it's such a popular topic. But at
Yeah,
the end of the day, it comes down to the habits of managing your data. And until companies can change those habits, which if they're doing today manual documentation, those habits, if you carry them to AI, it's of no use, because you're just wasting your dollars, right? So I think many companies don't want to take that first step of defining what good data management habits are, and educating everyone in the company of understanding how to use acronyms, or what is, do you even have an index of all the acronyms you're throwing around in the SOPs? Because the AI is not going to understand, right? The AI doesn't know
yeah,
as much as a human knows in terms of context of SOP, standard operating procedure. But if you're looking at a certificate of analysis, there could be 50 other acronyms that AI may not know if it
yeah,
doesn't even know what a CFA is, right? So that's the first step that companies need to take. And it's, AI is not stopping them from taking that step. They have to just decide and do it. Once they do that, then they can move on. So I think the person that made this remark is, he or she is on point, because AI is already here. And to companies who have taken that step, or who know what data they want to use in combination with AI, they're already going and doing stuff, or doing proof of concepts and doing experiments.
yeah.
But for the others, they really need to like clean up their data, and train the users before they can take that leap.
Yeah, no, I think that's super helpful context, Harsh, and that's precisely the reason why at Leucine we started looking into the large language models, which essentially power the generative AI that we see today. So we discovered that uh, publicly available models, they are super accurate. They have good intelligence, but they take you only until 80%. You still have a few gaps. So, it may not necessarily understand the nitty-gritties of pharma, the complexity of compliance, the historical context of how the evolution has happened, the latest
Yep.
interpretation of regulatory guidelines. So there have been a few missing pieces which I would say prevent the publicly available technology to be commercialized into a GMP environment, and that's where we started building our own pharma LLM, and I think the results have been really good so far. Hopefully, we'll be able to share more as we go. But I was pretty excited to hear your learnings as well. That uh, there are complexities in pharma which play a big role in deciding how much you can utilize it in day-to-day production environment. Uh,
Yep.
which actually brings me to another topic. Uh, so Harsh, doing what you have done so far, you have seen companies implementing the analytics layer on top of their QMS, implementing core AI technologies to bring their QMS to life a little bit more, and in your words, help out the quality leaders, the manufacturing leaders, make decisions better, faster using data. So everybody has to
Yep.
go through this journey of 0 to 1, and while taking this journey, there is always a few learnings that you wish if you knew upfront, you would have done better. So, are there any
Yep.
such learnings that you are willing to share with our listeners today, which would hopefully help them leapfrog all the mistakes that they would otherwise make, and bring them to a success point faster?
Yeah, I would say that the one common one that really stands out is just having um, having a good sense of documentation that has a consistent meaning, right? So uh, there are a lot of terms in pharma where the meaning is either given by a regulatory guidance or regulation or anything like that, right? So if I write the word risk assessment, 90% people in pharma know what it means, right? But there are a lot of other terms that may not have a consistent meaning, or they have, but the interpretation of every person is different. So I think it comes down to uh, keeping your documentation very lean, simple, and easy to understand. Because if a human cannot understand the context, then the AI will not understand it either, right? Or it might assume something and give you responses. So I think that's the first step, is just having a good documentation and data management habit or model within the company, so you can start thinking in terms of like data science, as to like if you're reviewing something uh, or approving a document, you start understanding the workflow and what pieces of data elements go from one step to the next step, right? So like you made an example of you you or somebody else had tried using AI, but the responses were only 70 or 80% and still needs human,
Yeah.
to come into that step. And that's true, because that's true for most of the clients or people that we work with, that they're not just leaving everything to AI. They still need that human touch. But the human can only understand what's going wrong if it knows the different data elements in that workflow that are important, right? So if you are doing, let's say, supply chain forecasting, or if you're doing, creating a shift schedule for your staff, whatever you're doing, you have to understand the start and end of that process, and which of the data elements you absolutely cannot get wrong. You cannot get everything right. Some could be wrong, but understanding each and every data attribute in there, and then sort of, controlling that a little bit or tightening it, that's what I've seen most in terms of the learnings from companies.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that, Harsh. So let's play another scenario. So I think everybody right now is excited about the uh, improvements which AI can bring. Many people have seen, uh, some power of technology in bits and pieces, and everybody is trying, eager and excited to achieve more. So if I am, such a person who is heading a critical department in a pharma company, manufacturing or quality or supply chain, and if I want to become AI enabled in the next 6 months, what are the precise steps that I can start taking today? What is it that I can do today, this week, this month, in 3 months? And so, will you be able to, guide us on how to effectively plan a journey towards becoming AI enabled?
Yeah, I would say that definitely start by understanding who uh, the passionate people in a company or in a department. You have to have people who are passionate about experimenting but also knowledgeable, right? Because if
Yeah.
they're not knowledgeable, it doesn't work. So like we are working with a client since last year, and
Yeah.
we are working with the QC team who does all the manufacturing. So they're knowledgeable, they're passionate, but we're also working with the IT and the data science team because they have different, constraints or requirements for how to use AI, right? So it's a combination of different players. And if a company that has not done this before, they need to identify who these five or six leaders are, and just look at what is the most predictive, let's say, processes or routine processes that are taking a lot of the manual time, and then just go and do a POC. Because personally, to me, I feel like the best way to learn something is to do and fail and then understand why it's not working. Because I cannot there isn't a single AI strategy that every company can use, because they
Yeah.
all manage and use their data differently, even if it's the same data that we're talking about. So I think the first step is to just find these early adopters, or people who are keen to do this and do a proof of concept, and then share that learnings with the other people in the company to say, hey, we did a POC in this department using AI, and here's what we found. And then try to gauge the interest of other you know users in your company who are also willing to take that step, until reach, like, you can't just come and say, oh, we're using AI. And so I've seen companies who are trying to do that, and that's also not a good way to do it, because then you're just bringing on additional complexity on users who don't really care about, because now to them it's like, oh, I have to go and now learn how AI works. I don't want to, right? So it's better, if you ask me, it's better to start small, learn from your own mistakes, and then take those early users and make them the champions, so they can start finding more use cases in the company to use AI.
Yeah. Harsh, thank you so much for spending time with us today. I have a lot of other things to chat about, but we'll probably have to find some other time. One final thing I want to ask you before we wrap up: what are you most excited about, in this coming year?
Oh, I think in this coming year, I'm really excited about more and more projects with companies who are taking this step, right? Because when I started 2 years ago, there were very few big pharma companies who were spending their internal teams and dollars on even trying out AI. And I went to a bunch of AI conferences in the last 15 months, talked to a lot
Yeah.
of software companies and uh, biotech leaders, and it's the sense that there are going to be more opportunities in life sciences to use AI, whether it's in quality or whatever field. And I just hope that I get to work on some of those interesting projects with companies and learn, because I don't know everything about it. I'm not whatever I learned was just working with clients on different projects and understanding. So hopefully I get to do a lot more projects with my team, and help life science clients.
Yeah, that seems like a good mission. Best of luck in achieving that, Harsh. Thank you so much for joining this chat. Thank you so much for uh, the work that you are doing, the passion that you bring into this domain. And yeah, wish you best luck, and we'll catch up soon. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Vivek. I appreciate it.